Oh my God. Okay. Yes, yes. Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it is 2025 list week, where I am pretty much going over the worst and best music of the year. That is the deal, that is the plan, and this video is going to be the worst singles of the year. Just 10 of them. Don't want to pile too much awful music on you, of course. But yeah, my 10 worst tracks of the year are as follows. Let's do it. At number 10, we are going to kick it off with none other than the infamous weirdo meme rapper extraordinaire Yuno Miles with his Fuck Yuno Miles diss track, which I think Yuno Miles might be the first rapper to properly diss his own self on a song. And when you dig into the track, it becomes very apparent very fast just how valid this man's reasons are for insulting his own person. From the beat choice being garbage to literally his own vocals being so annoying I can barely stand it. But also on top of that, it seems like the guy's own family members don't even like him. Just all around person nobody can seem to enjoy, either musically or otherwise. And honestly, I would be happy if I never heard this song again for the rest of my life. At number 9 comes a combination of words I never thought I would ever have to say in my entire life, and that is the song Dare You, the collaboration crossover between Choppa and Imagine Dragons. Why is this a thing that is real in our timeline? But yeah, honestly, as exciting and as thrilling as I think Choppa's delivery and flow was when he was initially really starting to build up momentum, break into the rap mainstream, his style and lack of lyrical dynamics has kind of made him a bit of an ear sore over the years. Just because I know every single time I see him, I'm not going to hear anything new. I'm not going to hear anything interesting. So it kind of seems like he's doing everything that he can to just do a bunch of weird, outlandish stuff that at the end of the day ends up being not very flattering. Like collaborating with one of the worst and corniest pop and rock bands in all of popular music history. Like, I know Imagine Dragons has done rap crossovers in the past, but I mean, you know, there are rappers who could or would complement their sound maybe a little bit better than Choppa. Collaborations like this just signal to me that maybe neither of these artists know what like the core appeal of their respective sounds are, given that they must have thought on some level that this collaboration sounded good. But I've said enough. Let's get into number 8, which is the Will Smith song Pretty Girls, big single from his latest record, which is a very interesting track to say the least that generated some very strange discourse online, mostly around how this song's main problem is that the tempo is wrong, and if it were a little faster or a little slower, it would actually like be a good song and go hard. But you know what? Even if this track was at 200 BPM, you couldn't pay me to listen to it, because it still remains that the beat itself is generic and Will Smith is on it, who, since things have gone south with Jada, I guess feels, I guess encouraged to put himself out there and remind us that he is a straight man and likes pretty girls. Yes, we're all very much in admiration of attractive women. Bold take from Will. But yeah, not only is Will Smith writing the most lowest common denominator slop that you possibly can here, but his delivery, his flow, the way he articulates when he raps has just not really advanced or evolved or grown really since like the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, I'm sorry, we no longer need Will Smith or people like him to rap about how hot women are anymore. I can listen to an actual attractive woman do that with a better flow, better beat, better chorus. We've just evolved as a society. You wouldn't think so, though, given our next track in the list, and that is Jessie Murph's 1965, which is an absolutely disgusting song. Though I will give Murph the benefit of the doubt and say, from the outset, there are some obvious satirical intentions going into this track. The main issue is, though, they just do not land. I know that on some level Jessie Murph understands that the 60s were a pretty regressive time in American history, and yet she, in a very tongue-in-cheek way, fetishizes this time period in a fashion that I'm sure to a lot of people is not being read as ironic, even with lines like, "I might get a little slap, but you wouldn't hit me on Snapchat." Yeah, the writing on this sucks. And it also doesn't really help that Murph puts on this like really over-the-top, annoying, hammed up, kind of saucy and sassy 60s girl group vocal performance. Not to mention how much auto-tune Murph's vocals are slathered into, and not for aesthetic reasons or anything. Clearly it is to make up for a lack of vocal chops. Her entire persona is like this badly pieced together combination of Lana Del Rey, Amy Winehouse, and a few other artists who have equally nostalgic vibes. But Murph doesn't even bring a fraction of their talent, voice, or aura, which is why my soul dies a little bit every single time I come across this track. Making me cringe even harder, though, is this song at number 6, Benson Boone.
Mystical Magical.
A track that I feel like I don't really need to explain the downsides of, what makes it terrible. I feel like the internet more or less understands this is not a very good tune, just based on the surface level vibes alone, the whole my scream making us a blue dream. It sounds like what you would get if Tiny Tim had Freddie Mercury at gunpoint, but it gets even weirder when you actually dig into the messaging of the song, which essentially centers around Benson not being able to take rejection or no for an answer, and has essentially deluded himself into believing that he wants to love this person, and this person would love his love if only they would accept it and see it for what it is. Then it would be a life of bliss and happiness and moonbeam ice cream. They just have to let it happen. Why won't they let it happen? It's creepy, it's weird, but you know what? Based on the way it sounds in the first few seconds of the song starting, you already knew that. Number 5 is a track that I'm, a little torn on. While I do think it is one of the worst things I've heard this year, I do got to give this track credit for being a dark horse in the music industry in 2025, for like really being a sleeper hit that truly went platinum on the Coworker Music charts. Of course, I'm talking about KARL's "I'm a Metalhead, Bitch," which is this awful little rap metal combo of this goofy ass Instagram Reels music guy who's given me a lot of different vibes, honestly. Like maybe a little less Claypool, but if you completely sucked away the cool factor, or if you took like the worst rap metal cliches from 2000 to 2010 and turned them up to 11, then also threw in some deathcore growls and some staccato guitar riffs, and then in addition to all of that, like the cheesiest, corniest lyrics where this guy is building himself up to be like some kind of special snowflake where he can't be like understood or pigeonholed or conceptualized. Like a bar on this thing that absolutely like blows me away every single time is the one where he talks about like not being able to judge a book by its cover, when the reality is he looks exactly like the guy who would record this song. There's no other way a guy who would make this song or would enjoy this song would look. This is what this guy looks like. It's like he was made in a fucking lab or something. But yeah, KARL, keep doing your thing, man. Again, I know you're gonna go diamond on the Coworker Music charts. Maybe going even harder on the MAGA Coworker Music charts. That's gonna be still for the 5th, 6th year in a row. Tom MacDonald with his newest song, Woke World. And not only are Tom's anti-woke narratives getting dumber and more cliche and more annoying and more repetitive with each passing year, the lack of creative shame is becoming even more apparent as well, given that literally every single thing about this song, musically, rhythmically, from the flow to the way Tom emotes and inflects, to the beat, to every single note of instrumentation, every molecule of this song's DNA strand is literally a fucking Macklemore song. The only thing Tom MacDonald did was write a racist, sexist, transphobic Macklemore song. That's literally it. And it just makes you wonder, does this man have a creative, artful bone in his body? Because I don't care what you're rapping about. Like, it should bother you to wake up in the morning and just be like, yeah, I just write Macklemore songs, but shitty. Which, I mean, Macklemore already has enough bad songs in his catalog. You're gonna write worse versions of Macklemore songs? And it's funny because Tom MacDonald, given his perspective and the way he operates in the world, looking at Macklemore, looking at the content of his songs, he probably doesn't even like the guy. Actually, when I look at it more broadly, that's pretty much every aspect of Tom MacDonald's catalog. Basically making shittier versions of music already put out there by artists who he doesn't even like. I don't know. I don't think it gets much sadder than that. Oh wait, actually it does, because we do have number 3 over here. That would be Dave Blunt's with First Day Out the Hospital. Unfortunately, I feel like Dave Blunt's is kind of like the death of what we knew at one time to be emo trap. This man really took what was for a lot of artists a classic, game-changing sound and pretty much made it the most dumb, stupid, offensive, needlessly edgy, brain rot shit that you've ever heard in your life, where this guy basically has turned an entire career out of making himself a musical lolcow and getting people all up in arms about going to the hospital, not being able to put down the cup, as he says, talking a bunch of bullshit about how he can't get laid and no woman will touch him, and being like literally homophobic for no reason whatsoever. How are you going to go out of your way to be hateful toward people who are interested in relations with the same sex when absolutely no one in their right mind will have sex with you unless it's for money? But yeah, absolutely terrible, awful, detestable person who shouldn't be allowed anywhere near a school as well, by the way. A man whose voice and lyrics and music are so shit, so mediocre, so bad, that Ye, formerly Kanye West, literally tagged him to write some of the worst music of his entire career together. And I think you really got to be a special type of artist to help a guy like Ye make some of the most awful music that he's never going to be able to live down. Another song that honestly should never, ever, ever be lived down is actually quite a serious one. I'm really not joking. I'm not fucking around here. We have reached truly a dark time to where you have these weird MAGA rappers like Forgiato Blow teaming up with no-name losers to put out songs. This one in particular is titled Good versus Evil. And honest to God, I'm not going to get too much into the content of this track other than to say, yeah, there's lyrics in this song about lynching people. It's a pro-lynching song. You've kind of stepped across several lines there into a realm where there's really no debate or comparison, and are just actively engaging in stupidity and hate and violence for literally no reason whatsoever, other than to just, like, you know, be a piece of shit, of course. But I mean, we are talking about a guy who looks like this. This guy. Which brings us to our number 1 track on the list, and that is going to be Ye with World War III, with also a little shout out to his Cousins song that he did with Dave Blunt's too. Yeah, unfortunately, Ye really gave us a 1-2 punch with some of the worst music of 2025, as he was just deep, deep, deep into his crazy, zany, Nazi, Hitler obsession rabbit hole, which honestly I'm not going to get too deep into the details of right now, not only because I've talked about it multiple times in other videos, even him recently trying to, you know, make amends and apologize for all of this to some extent, but also I don't want to get this video demonetized by going over all of it over again, or, you know, make it less likely that anybody would stumble across it, get it algorithmically buried. Like, you would have to be insane to write this song and then produce it, release it. I mean, he did kind of like change it a bit after the fact, but that did not happen before there were people who were very much taking the message to heart on the internet, and I mean, those people should be on a list. But yeah, you know, this is genuinely one of the worst songs a popular artist, I think, ever has recorded of all time, in all popular music history. But then in addition to that, Ye also put out a song about sucking his cousin's dick, which, here's the thing. Like, I understand that there is, given everything in the song is factual, that there is some real sort of like trauma there and some important, like, life-changing stuff going on with that track in terms of like the trajectory it put Kanye on from that point forward. But this should be addressed in therapy. This is not, I'm going to collaborate with Dave Blunts on the time I sucked my cousin's dick and, put out a song about it. We need to be addressing mental health professionals, okay? An MHP. I feel like, honestly, a lot of this list would have been completely prevented if we held in higher regard and made it a more regular practice to be engaging with mental health professionals. Again, I think you could have complemented a lot of these songs with the cover art. This could have been prevented with a mental health professional. So with that being said, I think I would like to please move on from ever having to consider any of these tracks for the rest of my life. That would be great. But yeah, transition. What did you think of these tracks? What are your worst songs of 2025? I'm sure you'll let me know. Love you so much. Anthony Fantano. Subscribe to the channel. List week 2025. Mwah. Forever.